I saw an article the other day. Pope Francis told priests not to preach for more than 8 minutes. I thought that was a load of crap. Certain priests shouldn't preach for more than 8 minutes. Yeah, that's true. But if you're able to hold people's attention, then go ahead and preach for 9 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, maybe 20 minutes. It just depends. Why does the church have to talk so much about sex? Right? Why does the church have to focus on morality and things like that? The whole idea of get your rosaries off my ovaries. Critics will say. Jesus in the Sermon on the Mount speaks about adultery. He speaks about lust. He speaks about the fact that things will condemn you. It's not a popular thing today to talk about the fact that things will condemn you. Certain things will send us to hell. He talks about divorce. Oh, that's unpopular. Let's not talk about divorce. Whoever divorces his wife, unless the marriage is unlawful, causes her to commit adultery, and whoever marries a divorced woman commits adultery. One of the hardest parts of my job as a priest is when I have a couple come to me and they realize that they're in an irregular marriage, and it's generally the wife that is Catholic and the husband is not Catholic, and he was married before and he was divorced, and now he's married to this woman, and she's striving to be holy and to be faithful, and I have to tell the man, you have to do an annulment. Well, I'm not Catholic. I know. And, in the old days, before the Second Vatican Council, we looked at Protestants as just bad Catholics. They're baptized, so anyone who's baptized is a Catholic. We said, okay, you're baptized, so therefore you're bound by the rules of the church. And so we could do what's known as a lack of form annulment, which is easy. It's like 3 pieces of paper. It takes a month, 2 months to process. But now you have to do the whole long process of the formal case. And people say, I'm not Catholic. Why do I have to do this? Well, because marriage is an institution from God, and we believe that the natural institution of marriage is something that is permanent. Once you're married, you can't just say, no, I'm not married, right? Your vows were to death do us part. Not until I'm just tired of it and I don't want to do it, or not until I'm going to trade in for a newer model. I think that's funny, but maybe apparently Steve thinks that's funny. Steve's wife probably doesn't think that's funny. But we live in this, this broken world, this broken society. We've replaced right religion with, the religion that says, you can't drive your car over a rainbow crosswalk, which is just stupid. I'm convinced that they paint those on the ground purposely so that you're going to drive over them and you put a tire mark on. Burn an American flag, burn a Bible, be my guest, but don't drive across the rainbow. We live in this just morally licentious, awful, broken society. And nobody wants to talk about it. And then you do talk about it and you're like, you don't understand, priest. You and your celibate life. I talk to a lot of people. I encounter a lot of people who life is just messy. Life is broken. What do we do? What's the solution? Well, Jesus is the solution. What's the problem? Satan. Satan's the problem. The tempter, the deceiver, the liar. Divorce. But it didn't work out, right? Why does the church have to be so strict? He was abusive. Yeah, that's awful. I'm a firm believer that divorce shouldn't be a word in the vocabulary of a married couple. Abuse, yeah, that's something real. Okay, that's where divorce can. Okay. something's really broken. We gotta separate. Father Jack, he's coming next month, so I don't have to do my job. He can do it for me. It's great. I look forward to it. He tells this story that his mom wouldn't let he and his sisters watch Mrs. Doubtfire, the movie, because it had divorce in it. I think to myself, the kids that I grew up with, and this is a broad generalization, so don't send me nasty emails, please, and don't write the Archbishop. But like all the bad kids in school, their parents were divorced. Because that affects kids. It used to be an impediment to be ordained as a priest if your parents were divorced. Because there's something there that says, like, do you understand the institution of the family? Now, that was a very broadly dispensed prohibition to being ordained, but something important to look at and to focus on and say, do we really understand marriage? Because to understand marriage is to understand the relationship of Christ and his church, right? Christ is married to the church. Christ lays down his life for the church, for his bride. He doesn't just look at the church and say, oh, you guys are all messed up and broken and everything's bad and you can't figure anything out, so I'm just going to walk away. I'm going to go back to heaven. Or worse yet, I'm going to go find another planet and find aliens, and I'm going to go love them instead. No, he lays down his life for us. Marriage is difficult, right? A lot of you are married. Most everybody here is married. Does anybody think marriage is easy? Oh, yeah, you put your hand back down, Lloyd. Yeah. Nobody thinks marriage is easy? Nobody? Why do people do it then? Why do you get married? I talk to these young couples and they get all excited about their weddings and they want to plan that the wedding's going to be the best day of my life. No, it's not. It's not. It'll be a good day. It'll be exciting. But there's more to life than just, this fancy day where you get a fancy dress and everybody comes and you take pictures and you spend tens of thousands of dollars. I don't understand that. The average cost of a wedding these days is $80,000. All I get is $250. I think that's a load of you-know-what. That's only if they give the suggested amount. Sometimes they stiff me. $80,000. It's insane. And the divorce rate, over 50%. And then you got to pay the lawyers. And the lawyers aren't as nice as I am. They don't give just a suggested minimum donation. They charge a lot. There's something deeply broken in our society. Jesus knew it 2,000 years ago. Right? Moses gave you divorce because of the hardness of your hearts. But I say to you, no divorce. That's adultery. And it's really, really hard when people come and they say, yeah, but Father, you don't understand. I fear for my life. I don't even want to go through the process of an annulment because I don't even want that person to have my name on his lips. Why can't I receive communion? That's a good question. Because marriage is really, really important. And until we can say, no, that marriage was invalid, we have to assume that it is valid. I tell people you could be, two witches that got married in the woods. And the Catholic Church is going to say, well, we presume that marriage is valid. Even though you're witches, that's not a good thing. You shouldn't be witches. But you made vows with one another, you're married. Because marriage predates the fall, right? Marriage predates eating the apple. Adam and Eve were married from the moment of their creation. It is not good for man to be alone. So God created for Adam a helpmate. That's what the word spouse means, helpmate. Those of you that are spouses, are you helpmates? Do you help your spouse? Do you strive to get your spouse to heaven? Or are you a hindrance? I didn't even know what the gospel was this morning. I was sitting over there in my chair and I was like, I think I'm not going to preach today. Because Pope Francis said, don't preach for too long. And I was reading this, I was like, I could talk about lust. I could talk about chopping your hand off, plucking your eye out. Don't actually do that, by the way. That's obviously hyperbole. But it's true. I mean, it would be better for you to go to heaven not having a hand or not having an eye than to go to hell. But divorce is it's such a problem. It's such a problem. And like so many of the problems in our modern world, we say, meh, live and let be. Don't worry about it. Don't judge. You don't know what it's like to be that person. I don't know what it's like to be that person. My mom used to tell me, sometimes I'd get worried, my parents would have a heated conversation in the kitchen. Anybody ever do that? Have heated conversations with their spouses? No, Mike, you don't? How many years y'all been married? 48 happy. Okay, good. That's up from 47 last time I asked. I remember, though, my parents, they'd have those heated conversations in the kitchen. I'd sit there and, because I watched TV and because they did let me watch Mrs. Doubtfire. I'm like, oh, my parents, they're, arguing and we live in a broken world in my little, 8-year-old mind trying to figure this out. And my mom, one time I asked her and she said, do you know the best way for a couple not to get divorced? And I said, no, what's that? She said, just don't do it. Well, that didn't make any sense. Again, just remove it from the vocabulary. From the vocabulary. The best way to keep a marriage is to not get divorced. Huh. That's really profound wisdom. Those of you that have been married for 30, 40, 50 years. How many of you have been married for more than 50 years? What a testament. That's why I, like, when you have your anniversaries, I say, good, come up in the front of the church. I want to give you a blessing. I don't like giving extra blessings at Mass, but for marriages, for big anniversaries, I want to do it because I want to highlight that you've done it, you've lived it. You've overcome difficulty. You're a witness to our young people, to our young couples. It is possible. But simply to say, we're not going to entertain the notion of this. I get it. Marriages break down. Some people, they're able to say, you know what, my marriage broke down and I live in one room and she lives in the other room and we're just going to kind of keep going because we said to death to us part. For some, marriage breaks down and there's just this, because of, again, especially abuse, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, spiritual even. There's times where I hate to do it. I hate to have to tell someone, you really do need to walk away from this marriage. It doesn't mean you're not married anymore. But for your good, for your safety, for your spiritual good, you have to walk away. So I didn't mean to be all Father Michael and preach for a million minutes on a weekday when I intended not to preach at all. But this is really important stuff. And it's kind of taboo to talk about. And you know me, I love talking about taboo stuff. But so let us pray for the sanctity of marriage. Let us pray for couples. Let us do all that we can to support marriage, which is indeed under attack, right? That Supreme Court decision a few years ago, almost 10 years ago, that tried to say marriage is something different than it's been for, well, since the creation of the world. Let us pray for the institution of marriage. Let us pray for married couples that they may continue to grow in holiness, that they may be indeed examples for us of the love of Christ for his church. Let us pray for those in difficult marriages, those who are struggling. Let us pray for those for whom marriage has not worked. Pray especially for those who are in irregular marriages, those who are married once and now not really married again, but live as if they're married again. Let us pray for the people at the tribunal, that horrible legalistic office in the chancery, where they have the sad task of processing annulments. And sometimes it feels like this really bureaucratic, just awful nightmare. Let us pray for really the whole world, that we may not be victims of sin, not be victims of division, not be victims of Satan. Satan who seeks to divide. That's his whole mission, is to divide. Let us pray indeed that we may continue to grow in holiness each and every day.